Hello, I'm here to moderate this forum. I am standing here because I was a student not too long ago, 1999, as an international student. When Vince asked me if I would moderate, I'm like, yes. I want to say one thing. I have been an international student for 7 years and worked as a foreigner for 5, 6 years. I thought I knew what it feels like to be an international student because I was one for a long time. A few years ago, I had a chance to host a Turkish-German girl at my place. She was Muslim, she wore a headscarf, and she was in love. She was engaged to be married to her husband, fiance, back in Germany. I was shocked that she was in love. I thought, just because she's wearing a headscarf, how can she be experiencing love? Happiness, sadness. I couldn't believe that's what I felt. Are you one of the moderators? No, I mean participant. So I just wanted to let you know that they do not represent international body at campus. I'm here to share, I hope you all share your stories so we can enlarge our understanding of what it feels like to be an international student so far away from home, and at the same time, enlarge our understanding of ourselves. So with that, I would like to go, I guess, from Gabe, sitting at the very far, and ask you to tell us your name, your major, and where you're from, and how long you've been here.
Hi, I'm Gabe. I'm an international student from Venezuela. However, I moved around a lot growing up. I'm a junior. I'm a television, radio, and film major. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm from Shanghai, China. I've been here since sophomore year of high school, so this is my 4th year. I'm studying advertising and retail management. I'm a freshman.
Hi, my name is Basadi. I'm from Botswana. I am a master's student in the arts journalism program. I've been here since last year, July.
Hi, my name is Aline Hansen. I am a junior. I'm a triple major in broadcast and digital journalism, political science, and Spanish. And I am actually from Berlin, Germany, and I came to the United States as a sophomore in high school.
Hi everyone, I'm Ime Lee. I go by Vika, and I'm a master's student in a Tier F major. This is my 5th year in the US state. I went to undergrad school. I went undergrad in Newhouse in advertising major as well. Also here, 5 years in Syracuse. Only city I've been in the United States. Yes.
Hi, I'm Tony, and my Chinese name is Tao Fu, so I just let that others call me Tony. I'm sorry for being late. I'm in public relations graduate program, and this is my first year in United States, also the first year in Newhouse. So that's all.
All right. With that, I would like to ask each and every one of you, what made you come to United States? From Gabe.
The reason why I decided to come to the United States was because I was in the American education system growing up, so it just kind of made sense. So yeah, also it's a great place to study film, so yeah.
A lot of Chinese students are coming to the U.S., and I think it's just because the traditional education system in China is very rigid. You get placed in universities solely based on your test score in one test, which you can only take once. So I came here just to have better education opportunities, and I chose Syracuse because first because of Newhouse, and second because it offered dual major with Whitman. So.
Oh, this one. I hadn't planned on coming to America, to the US, but I found a program that I really liked online, and I started talking to the professor who was the chairman of the program. It was the Arts Leadership Program, but unfortunately it got canceled. But otherwise, I mean, I've always thought it would be nice to live in America. I've always wanted to live in New York City. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to end up here, though.
Yeah, actually, I kind of followed my sister's footsteps. So she went to study abroad in America before me. And in Germany, it's really common for students to kind of go study abroad for a year, do a year abroad. And the most primary destination really for Germans is the United States to learn English. So my sister went first, and she went to high school in Georgia, Rome, ended up staying, went to Barry University in Florida, and I just kind of wanted to aspire to be her, really, because it was so cool how she could just switch between languages and had so much knowledge and such a wealth of information about a country that was not our own. So I actually decided to follow her, really, because of that. So yeah.
Okay, so first, I don't want to take that Chinese SAT test, which is you can only take once, and it's really strict. And the second, I just want to experience a new life in a new country that I've never been. It's kind of like a new world for me, not only for education.
Yeah, since I have spent 4 years in China, Chinese university, so I know that like I started working in PR agency, and I decided I must learn PR. Well, PR in China is not, I don't think it can call it like a really profession, because not any like university has this kind of courses. So that's why I come to United States, because it's like the origin of public relation.
So let me tell you what I thought when I first came to the United States. I thought on campus will be full of Abercrombie models. Like that's what I saw in Korea. I'm like, like in brochures and catalogs. So I was very surprised when I came here. I want to ask some of you if you had any kind of like surprising moments, like, wow, this is not what I thought.
Well, I actually went to high school in Vermont, in St. Johnsbury, which is, I think, a very special place to be at, because there is a very big hunting culture there. So coming from a country that has very, very strict gun laws and doesn't really have a hunting culture, it doesn't have a trophy hunting culture to begin with, what really surprised me was kind of engaging with people that go hunting, that get really excited for turkey season, and they are over the moon when they actually shoot down a deer and post photos on Facebook. And I think that was, for me, the most startling experience, because I was just very unfamiliar with like the whole hunting culture. But I quickly came to realize that really that does not represent America whatsoever. I purposefully traveled through the United States. I kind of did a U, like I did the West Coast, I did the South, and kind of back up the East Coast. And I quickly realized hunting culture is not the first thing everywhere, but that was the most surprising thing for me, definitely.
The thing that I found most surprising was the amount of school spirit that there is around here, because it's like in Europe and in South America, there's like, you just go to school, study, and that's it. So having like this whole culture and like events happen around the university was very surprising to me.
Anybody else? Right, so that said, how about what you the big cultural difference, continuing with that surprising moments, like what's the biggest cultural difference that you still can't acclimate yourself to? Like,
I would say American people love to say hi to strangers. And they start random conversation with me when I was walking on the street. And then they're really nice conversation. And even someone would say, oh, nice outfit, or whatever. So, and even I was waiting in DMV, and some random guy just talking to me about like his family. Then that thing is never gonna happen in China. Like, people don't talk if you guys are like friends. They would never talk to strangers. And that's really, really weird when I first got here. Especially that time, I can't really understand what he's talking. The only word I can say is, what? Can you repeat? And then later on, I just gonna repeat as, yes, yeah, yeah. And then just keep the conversation going, and he's gonna stop. It's a really like interesting culture I've been experienced here.
Interesting perspective. I actually really enjoy just starting conversations with strangers. Sometimes it's kind of erratic and people find it weird. But I think what I'm not used to is, first of all, how much like people say I love you just randomly. I'm like kind of tentative to saying it back because I don't want to be that casual with like I love you, but it's okay with I'm okay with people doing that. And then in high school, I was really not used to people saying like how are you, and then I'm asking them back because it's they don't actually they're not actually trying to find out how you're doing because they don't like when I say how are you back, they've already like passed by me. So but now I'm used to it. But like when when I was in high school, I didn't really want to say it back or wasn't sure how to say, okay, should I just say I'm fine? That's like my response every single time. It's kind of awkward.
How about Basadi? You've been here not too long.
Okay. So just like Maggie here, I think what I found really weird is just like when you're on the street and then you're passing somebody and then they smile and it's not really a smile, it lasts for like a second. And I just like my natural thing is to, want to smile back and maybe have a conversation because I mean, if you're smiling at me, then obviously we're on the right kind of path, I guess. But it's just like a smile that doesn't last a long time, and it's very discouraging because I guess in Botswana we're a bit friendly. Like you said, in China you don't talk to strangers. That's like, I mean, we do that all the time. Like if you come into a bus or if you are in a combi or whatever, you just like say hi to people and you just have a conversation whether you know each other or not. So I guess that's not like such a positive thing for me, just like that smile that doesn't last a long time because I'm like, why do we have to do it then? Like, let's just like not look at each other at all. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm just like not looking at people because I'm damaged now, so. Yeah.
So in Korea, the first thing you ask when you meet a stranger is how old are you? Are you married? That's the second question, following age. We don't hug, we don't say I love you, we don't say hi. But those are the things that we say. So when you came here, are there like experiences like that when you said something that you're so used to back home and then you get a surprising reaction?
Well, I think that we Germans have a reputation for being kind of cold and kind of very straightforward and not very small talky people. So this kind of ties into the previous question and this question. What confused me the most as well was the how are you? Because in Germany, you never ask how people are. You just kind of go say like good day and then move on. And we ask the question, how are you? When we really, really care how you are. So we ask like, how are you doing emotionally? How is your state of being? How is your life going? And here, you say like, oh, somebody asks you, how are you? And you're like, actually, I'm really having a tough day. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, bye. And you're like, oh, all right. I guess you didn't really care that much to begin with. But I think for me, a main struggle was actually not coming over as rude because I am very straightforward and I talk my mind. And I struggled the most with learning how to compliment people because my first few compliments came out with like, oh, you look nice, actually. Like, actually, you look nice. And people would be like, thanks. So I think kind of finding the right degree of niceness that is not too profound, not too deep, but at the same time also like nice enough was really difficult for me, I think, like kind of adjusting my social behavior in public settings, definitely.
I think, yeah, I like what you talked about finding a balance. I'm fine with strangers just exchanging a really 1 second smile. What I like when I do get annoyed is when it's inconsistent. Like when they smile at me one time, and I smile to them back, and next time I see them, I initiate the smile and they don't look at me.
That's Basadi.
And I love exchanging smiles that last like 3 seconds, where you're like you're like checking in and you're just like, and I don't know, like it's sort of a tacit sort of communication through facial expressions. And when it's not awkward is when you know that person also agrees that it's okay to have that kind of really basic communication.
So
And-
I was told by a professor here that I smile too much. She said, you can't be that happy all the time. So I said, so what do I do? She said, practice. Well, she said she practices every single day in the mirror. I've never seen her smile. But anyway, what I say, I want to continue that conversation and ask you how hard or how easy you found making friends with American, I guess, students, your fellow students.
Well, it wasn't easy at all. Sorry to interrupt. Oh, okay. It wasn't easy at all. Actually, Maggie's my friend here, and she's like 18 and a freshman. So that's what we've come down to. Well, no, come up to really. It hasn't been easy, and I find that very strange actually, because like we have, like in Botswana, we do actually have students that come in, like from Germany, from America, from, you know, mostly like Peace Corps volunteers. I mean, we've hosted some at my home village and in the city, if you happen to interact, or it could be any, like from, like not necessarily just like Western countries, but like anybody really. Like if you have like a friend from Zimbabwe or Zambia or any other country, you know, the natural thing for me is to, you know, invite them back home. I have a friend who is, he's from France, and he's been in Botswana for 2 years, and for 2 years he's been joining us for Christmas at my home village, because that's like, you know, if you're far away from home, then somebody should invite you. But up to this time, not a single person has invited me to their home, and that's strange. And but yeah, it hasn't been easy.
About Tony?
Yeah, I think 1 year ago when I just come here, I was still not very confident with my English, and sometimes when we talk to others, like I need to pretend I know what you are talking about, even though I don't know. But sometimes like when people saying like how about that we're going to somewhere, actually if I say yes, well, their response is not like, okay, you just come and join us, because sometimes that has some gaps between conversation. So first is probably the language problem, and the second would be more like when you try to get used and involved into this culture, you just found out there are a lot of problems, because if like we talk about movies, but we don't watch the same movie. We talk about music, but we have the music gap. And sometimes, like just last year, for like Americans, like my classmates, and just say in the group and say, why not we go to the party together? And I say, okay, I would like to come. And their response is like, oh, it's too late, so you cannot come. It's like, I don't know, do you want me to come or not? But I don't know, it probably is my comprehension problem, I don't know, because like, if you think you are not well involved into this culture or this community, you will find more difficulty to make friends with others.
Yeah, I kind of also think that the definition of a friend is very different in the United States. So we Germans, as I said before, have a reputation for being rude, and we don't make connections very easily. So for us, a lot of people are just acquaintances. And to be a friend, to have a friend, is a very deep connection. It's loyal, it lasts years, and you have very few friends. So when I say I'm friends with somebody, I usually mean that I really have formed a connection that is unlike any other. And here in America, I feel like the term is being thrown around very loosely. And that was something I really had to get used to, because you meet these people, and especially in high school, and in college really as well, you have these classmates and you take classes together and you grow closer and you think this has potential for a real relationship, for a real friendship. And then the semester is over and they forget about you, or they don't really stay in touch, no matter how hard you try. So I think that one of the main difficulties for me was actually making that meaningful connection, actually finding people that I had the feeling, this is not just for a semester, this is not just for a year, this is actually a friendship that will continue throughout my life and for a phase of me being in America.
I was trying really hard for the freshman year, the first year in the United States, trying to make American friends. I was like, since you're in the States, you must have some like, American friends. You guys hang out, you guys talk about things together. And I joined their lunch, like in dining hall. The whole table is our like floor mates. And then I tried to join their party. And then just, you can't really get into that situation. It's like, they're talking about something you've never heard. Like, you know, even for the TV series, I only know Big Bang. Like, Friends, those we watch to learn English. And not for others. Like, we only have access to those things. And just really hard to talk about sports either, because I watch NBA, not NCAA. I can't really tell like the name, whatever. So, and then now I'm really being comfortable because I don't really classify my friend as American friends, Chinese friend, international friend. They're just friends. And then I just figure out like we do have language barrier, culture barrier, and then but we do have a lot of things in common. I can still talk about a lot of issue things, what I have, like difficulties in my life, and talk with everyone I met. Like now I'm working the cage. I literally email my boss, my mom, Liz, about, oh, I really love your stuffed shad. I didn't even know that name is stuffed shad. I was asking about recipe through our work email. And also like I was still talking with Nardos about like the outfit because I know she's like a really interesting fashion thing. We talk a lot about that. And I think that's a really good, like, I don't want to say relationship maintaining, but that's just a really good thing I'm experiencing right now after like several years in States. I'm not really classifying my friends because you're from a different place, you're like, we have different culture, but we just still can be friends.
What about you, Gab?
I had a very different experience. I think I had a very, I don't know, it was very easy for me to integrate. And I don't know, I think it was due to the fact that I met the right people at the right time who were like a good support group. I always had like a place to stay during the breaks, so I find myself lucky to have been able to find the right group early on.
So I've been in the States for 23 years. I still look up dictionary every single time I write something. I still make lots of mistakes, and language doesn't come easy to me. It is something I create from nothing, from zero. Because when you come as a foreigner to a new country where you don't speak the language, you are recreating yourself because you don't share the language. Some of you have come here in your high school years. So you've been here a while, but still, it is a big challenge, and the barrier will be there. And if you make a little mistake, you are being judged as if you don't know. Your IQ is very low. I have experienced all those, so I can share, I can understand, but at the same time, I just wanted to let you know that it's kind of odd, seriously. Like in States, if you make a few grammatical error, they don't understand anything. Like, you know, like you have to have a perfect like grammar and like otherwise you can communicate. So you naturally gravitate toward international students because we share that common experience of making mistakes when we speak in the language that's not our own. So I want to, I guess, ask some of you, those of you who had to learn this language, like if there's any moments you would like to share with us.
Yeah, I would like to share experience like sometimes, especially when we have the group chat or like group meeting, actually I have the ideas probably at the same time while others have it. But the point is that my English is not as good as them, so I would take longer time to say it out. And at that time, they are passed to the next point. It's like I'm always laid out, and I always behind them. And that really embarrassing me, or sometimes it's like, I really feel very depressed. So from my standpoint, most time I would like just write down, and after all of them talk about that, and I just show them what I have wrote. So, but yeah, I mean, sometimes for us, even though we have speak English for a while, but we still need some time to translate something from our mother language to English. So that will take some time. I don't know. Yeah.
Anyone else? No. So moving on to the perspective, I think some of you have mentioned it. How difficult or easy it is to share your different perspective, especially in this changing political climate. Because you're not so certain about this culture, the politics in the United States, but you do have your opinions. Is it difficult to share your perspective, or do you not share? Or how is it like?
Well, I'm a political science student, so really I offer my opinion all the time. But what I have learned is that I am always cautious to not step on anybody's toes, which I don't think I'm as cautious about not, kind of offending anybody at home as I am here. And I'm always very careful to not generalize. So, you can't really say this group of people is like that or these people are like that. So I think the size of America sometimes makes it really difficult to really have an opinion in the first place. So as I said, I traveled through America and I have been to different places, and you really can't compare, Houston, Texas to Syracuse, New York. You really can't. So sometimes when you offer your opinion, it's like it doesn't even really apply, I feel like. So I'm always very cautious to be careful how I word things, to be careful how I express myself. Because I do believe that, this is just my personal perception again, because I can't generalize, but I do have a sentiment that people here get easily offended. And I think people take a lot of things very personal. So you can't really have an objective conversation about an issue such as politics, because I'm studying political science. Things get heated very, very quickly. While at home, in Germany, it's even forbidden to reveal your party affiliation. You don't tell anybody who you voted for. It's all very hush-hush. But you can have constructive conversations about policy or about society or about things that are happening. And I feel like that is not really the case here. But again, I'm generalizing, and I really shouldn't be, because who knows, in another region of America, that might not be the case.
Maggie?
I think generally, I don't think it's a consequence that I don't think it's a coincidence that I have more international friends than American friends, and that's not just because international friends are higher quality or anything. I think part of it is that I think I'm more confident when I talk to fellow international students, and they're more receptive, they're more forgiving, and going off of what you said, I think you only have one chance to make your impression, and they don't forget any of your mistakes. Regarding sort of the cultural differences or the political climate, in high school, I was in an English class and we were talking about just Trump's immigration policy, and I remember I was really surprised because I always think of America as a very liberal place, and I was surprised that I was the only one who didn't think that America should expel illegal immigrants, and that was sort of a really sad moment. I felt like almost crying after class, and so yeah, I think in general I would love to see students here. Just because they don't need to doesn't mean that they shouldn't be more sort of fluid in their conversations and receptive to other opinions.
Yeah, Basari.
So I think that's one of the maybe positive aspects about America. There are many positives, obviously, but I really like that it's you're free to talk about politics. Maybe race issues, not so, people are not generally, I found that people are generally not so comfortable with talking about that, but that's I like to talk about race issues, and it just it makes everybody uncomfortable. but not everybody. Like generalizing, of course, is not good. And I guess what the lesson that I also learned is just like not to generalize, you know, and not to assume things about people, because sometimes you think, oh, this person is this color or this person is like this sex, therefore they're like this. So it's always important to, you know, just like be aware of that. Just because something seems this way, it's not always the case, you know. I mean, I've been surprised by some people that I've spoken to who are very open-minded, but maybe my first impression would be to, my first reaction, my reflex would be to just like assume things about them. But so that's something that I yeah.
And Vasadi, she's my friend, and she reminds me a lot to not generalize people. And I really enjoy talking to her, and I learned a lot from her. You don't like compliments? Because I have a lot to learn, and I've learned a lot about just the culture of her, not the culture of her country, but like sort of African American cultures, sort of. And I've made a lot of wrong comments, and she corrects me on them. There is. She offers her opinion, and she doesn't necessarily refute my comments. She doesn't just take it down. Like she. So I mean, I think you learn a lot from making mistakes, right? And I'm not afraid to offer opinions to her, because I know that she'll offer her perspective on it, and I'll learn from it.
I think it's called, in a way, trust. You trust one another. And to build that trust, I think it takes time. You have to be willing to make yourself vulnerable. And then if you make mistake, you know the other person will forgive you. And that said, I wonder how we can expand that to, I guess, people who are more different than us, whose home is not as far away, like China or Germany. So I want to ask you, what kind of things you do to make that happen? You know, Maggie just said she's really a good friend with Basadi. Is there something that you can share that how that happened and how you would encourage that to others? You know, what can be done to expand that experience?
Well, I think I seek out to different people a lot, and I seek out their opinions. Like I like to hear what they think about things, and I mean, I don't want to generalize. There are a lot of very open American students, but so I think what we can do, and as international students, one of the things I do is be confident in challenging their opinions. It benefits them as much as it benefits us. And someone has mentioned before that you really have to know the American culture to be part of it. And one of the things is you have to be confident, because even if you have the right opinion and the other person want to hear it, if you're shy, they're less receptive to that opinion. So I think it helps them as well to be assertive and be balanced in sort of the be balanced in the power in your inarticulate. Yeah, so like be sort of balanced in the conversation, and that helps.
Vika, do you want to add? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, sorry, do you want to go?
Mm-hmm.
I think that a main thing that I always do is I try to explain why I do certain things that I do and say certain things that I say. So anybody who knows me well knows that I often say, you know, at home it's like this and this, or like in Germany it's like this and this. And I do that with an intention. I don't do that to be obnoxious, although I might be. But I think I always try to, you know, close that bridge, that cultural divide between Germany and America by explaining why I do certain things that I do. Because as I said, I do have a habit of being perceived as rude or very straightforward or very blunt. So I think by kind of letting people into your culture, by opening up, by showing them, you know, this is where I come from, this is my background, this is this explains why I do the things I do. That's kind of how I try to make that connection and kind of cross that cultural divide.
I just want to share, like, I really love the environment that people can share different opinions here. People are open to talk all of like stuff, their opinions based on their experience, based on their religions, and people are not shy to say, oh, I don't like this comment because it offends me. And I really like this environment, and I really love challenge people's idea, especially in class, because I feel like here professors, they're really open to any voices, at least from like, I feel like all my professors, they're just like this. I can challenge them not like on certain issue and then about, oh, this is how I think from my perspective. They're really willing to hear. And even the students, they're willing to discuss. And I really love the discussion in class. This is how I love the freedom speech. I would say freedom speech. And then here, even related to politic things, because I'm from a place that we're not really free to talk about politics in public, especially in school. So I really appreciate that we can have some like conversation here. Even I'm only the listener to those conversations because I'm not familiar with American politics. I'm like TRF major, not like political science. I just listen and enjoy people talk about how they're thinking about, oh, that time I was experiencing Obama healthcare. That's like a long time ago. And then we were having discussed like in class. It's like a long time ago. And then I really enjoy like people, they're talking about this. And then even I would say challenge the professor about like, oh, this is like not really right about what you say because blah, blah, blah. And they're really willing to hear. And this is the thing I like about this academic environment.
So how supportive have you found the Newhouse in general to be with your experience?
I feel like professor here, they're like personalize you. They want you to be what you want to be. It's not like they want you, like the whole group, they're gonna be like same, like highly educated, like high GPA or whatever. So, and they really want to help you with your like, oh, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And they just can help you like in this way, because I went a lot of like professors' office hour. I enjoyed talking with them, learning things from them, and then I just really surprised to find that they're really interested in my story as well. And then so they can help me about like, oh, I think this is your strengths are. And then I remember when I first in TRF, I talked to Professor Schoolmaker that because I was advertising major, and I was really thinking, how can I convert my advertising and my TRF like study together? And he's like, oh, this is a really good like transition that people from ad agency, they're really looking for in-house production. This is the direction you can go. And I really enjoy about like how they really look into your personal experience and to discover who you are and who you can be.
What about you, Gabe? Mm-hmm.
I've also found them very supportive personally, just because of what Vika said. They always like want to learn what you like and will try to bring out those aspects in their teaching. So it's always very personalized experience.
And Tony?
Yeah, I found that one thing that is not only the Newhouse faculties, but also the Newhouse students. One thing is very good is that they give me confidence. Well, in the beginning that I'm really not confident, as I mentioned. So the way that they say is like the first sentence I remember very clear is that the professor taught to me that your classmates is not your competitors. You guys are partners. So in China, we are probably live in an environment that has a lot of competition. Like everybody around you is your competitors. But come here, and when they say this, you can just, okay, I can settle down and I can have confidence to make friends with others. And another thing is like, when in the beginning, when we have make errors like assignments or because of language part of anything, like what they said is not like just point out your errors and they say you are bad at this, you need to do something. What they say is like you can make something better. So it's different, like point out your mistakes and say you are bad, and instead of like you say you can make it better. So that really helps.
I actually find it really interesting because I kind of disagree with him. But then again, I come from a different country and from a different background. From a faculty standpoint, I think I have never been in a more supportive environment. I honestly have to say that I have never had a Newhouse professor or really a Syracuse University professor who has not been wholeheartedly supportive. And I think I really agree with you what you say, that they kind of see the potential in you and they really push you and they really want you to get there. But then I do think that there is a lot of pressure sometimes between students. I mean, I think it might depend on the major, but we're all brilliant being here. Newhouse is a very difficult school to get into. It's a very, very excellent institution. And for me, it was kind of a shock to be in this environment in broadcast and digital journalism. You know, everybody wants to get a job after graduating, and everybody wants to do their best. And I was surprised to see kind of a competition and the pressure among peers, because it's kind of, I think it's an external and internal pressure, because half of it is you putting yourself under pressure. Half of it is like you see their pieces, you see their packages, and you think, oh my God, they have such better writing skills. They have such better video, like cinematography skills, and you just kind of get frustrated. But then I also do believe that there's an external pressure that people really do kind of push each other here in Newhouse. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I also work for Citrus TV, and even there it was kind of hard to find my place because people are all competing with one another for anchor positions, for the latest of the latest, and it's really difficult to kind of find that climate. As I said, faculty has been amazing. Students have been at times as well, but then at other times they rather put you down than lift you up, I think, unintentionally. I'm not saying that anybody goes out there with malicious intent and says, oh, I'm gonna make people feel bad about themselves today. I don't think anybody goes out and starts their day that way, but I do think it's an unintentional effect, kind of.
So I come from like a program which is very small, which is like only 8 people. So we get like a lot of attention from like our director, Eric. So the program itself is like really good, and everybody has been really supportive in the program, including Newhouse. You know, I wish I had like something negative to say about like the professors here, but I have to say they are really just like top notch. My whole experience here has just like been about like looking at myself, you know, just like turning the mirror on myself and saying, you know what, you have to get with the times. And yeah, I just generally think that everybody's like really open-minded to listening and like just like exchanging ideas. I have met really, you know, very like knowledgeable people here who are always willing to learn, and yeah, so it's been an insightful experience. Yes. Okay.
Do you miss home? Yes. What do you do? What do you do when you miss home? Skype them? Let's hear about our experience of like being away. You all are very young, just like I am. And I just want to know, you know, the homesickness.
Well, it's funny because I came to the United States when I was 15, and I didn't miss my parents then for some unimaginable reason. But now I talk to my mom every single day, and pretty much my dad as well. And I think they're sick and tired of it. And I think my parents expected me to, you know, grow more independent as I grow older, but that is totally not the case. I mean, it helps now that I live in an apartment that I can cook my own home food and kind of follow my own rituals and kind of make myself at home. But man, I am counting down the days until I get to go home and cuddle with my cat. I mean, nothing will ever be like being home. Nothing will ever replace that feeling of, you know, driving home from the airport. I don't know how you guys feel, but for me, like the highlight always of going home is like driving from the airport to your house, and it's like slowly coming up on the road, and you're like, look at it, and it just feels so, it's such a sweet, tender feeling. It's such a feeling of welcoming and of such a you don't have to try anymore. You don't have to adjust yourself to your environment because this is where you belong. This is your home, and nothing will ever come close to that. So I get more homesick as I go older, which is quite fascinating. I don't know how it's going to be by the time I'm 40. I pity my parents. I'm going to call them like every 10 minutes. But I think communication is key. Talking to them every single day makes the distance bearable.
I personally have the opposite experience. Like, I think that Syracuse is my home just because, like, I don't know, my parents no longer live, like, where I grew up. They're constantly moving around. So I really just find, like, being here and, like, having my routine here and just, I mean, I do miss my parents and I miss food, like the food that they make, because it's fantastic. But, like, I really feel at home here, and, like, it's the place where I feel the most comfortable, so. Yeah.
And Tony, you were nodding your head emphatically.
Yeah, like actually in the beginning when I come to Syracuse, I was really homesick. Like I want to call my friends, call my family like every day. But like after one thing, that I went to a trip in United States. It was a really terrible trip. And at that time, when I come back to Syracuse, I feel like Syracuse is the home. Oh, I like it. I like it so much. I don't want to go to California again. So, I mean, maybe something, you just need a trigger.
I'm guilty to say I miss Chinese food more than I miss my parents, actually. I've always been like really independent and never like feel that really strong like sad feelings of being away from my parents. But I think there are a lot of opportunities here to connect with other students who share that experience. Hendrix Chapel does a lot of stuff. There are different cultural clubs, so many different cultural clubs, and how I feel at home at Syracuse would be when I see my friends, because I'm really surprised at how rare you can come across someone by coincidence on this campus. I cannot see someone for a whole semester, and it's great to just see them on the street and give them a big hug.
So I come from Botswana, which is like 2 million people. So, and I live in the city, and it's like maybe like 300,000 people. So I pretty much know most people. So it's really hard to miss Botswana. I mean, I do miss my family, but also missing people is also very overrated because you meet them and then like after 5 minutes you're already fighting. So I have also made some, like I'm part of the Sudanese community now actually. My internship at Hendrix Chapel, which is like very community-like. So I can't really say, I mean, as much as I love my country, I don't miss it that much, yeah.
Vika?
It's a really interesting experience because I've studied abroad in Korea for a year. And then during that year, I never talked to my mom. Like, just because I forgot. I totally forgot. It's because I hang around with my friends, Korean friends, we eating out, we like drink every day. And then I literally forgot to talk to her. And it's always she's asking me, are you alive? Like, and then in the States, I like talk to her every day and trying to let her know that I'm alive. And then she said, can you stop like talking to me every day? It's really a burden for her to like reply my message every second, especially if she's in work. Because this is why I feel like the only thing making me homesick is the food. It's like Korean food is really similar to Chinese food. And then when I had a really good Chinese food in here, I will be so happy. And then especially here, we can't really, now we have Asian market. And before then, freshman, sophomore year, since I don't even have a kitchen, just really hard for me to cook any Chinese food, and plus I didn't know how to cook that time. And then you have no time to cook. The only thing you can do, buy out like Subway, and the one thing I can find like really related to Chinese food is Chipotle because they have rice. And it's a really like sad thing for me. And then when I like went to another like country who has like similar food than Chinese food, I really enjoy the life there. And I do miss my family like all the time because they're just some they're always there for you. Like when I'm home, like whenever I experience everything, you can always talk when you get home. But here, luckily, you can talk with your roommate. And if you guys are not good friends, you can only talk through like apps or whatever. Like we have WeChat, like through like two other friends. It's like I'm really like homesick when I have a lot of difficulties in my life. I just really need someone to be there, like around to with me. And really interesting is when I get home, and after not even more than 2 weeks, my mom just gets sick of me. And then because like I do everything here, like washing dishes, like you have to clean up yourself, like do a lot of things here. And when I get home, I was like, I'm so relaxed and never wash a dish once. And then like, my room is like such a messy. And then my mom was like, when you're not here, like your room is a perfect clean, and now I have to clean after you. And then that like homesick just never lasts for like more than 2 weeks.
I hope staff and faculty at Newhouse can always be there for you guys and international students. They have been, because that's why I've been coming back here again and again and again. I wanted to ask all of you, what's your plan after Newhouse? Do you plan on want to get a job here or go back home?
Officially, I'm going home in May because it's really hard for us to get a job here. I really appreciate you give us a chance to talk about how to get a job in the States. It's just really, really hard. The first thing is because of policy. Like the policies are getting shrinked that we can't have H-1B, which is if I officially work here, my family can't visit us. It's like they can't have because they're afraid of like we're gonna immigrate to this country. And this is I have a permanent job, and if my parents like went to go to the immigration office, is that immigration office? Whatever, like to get a visa, they will say, oh, I visited my daughter and then she's working in the States. It's 100% or 99% get rejected, because they will think you are immigrant to this country. This is how my parents get rejected. They can't come to my graduation ceremony. And because I was trying to get on OPT, and my mom was not really smart to answer those questions. You know, those tricky questions. Do you get, are like your daughter gonna have a job there? My mom was literally, yes. And then this is how like that felt. And then even when I applied to all the internship, I went all the career fair, and I tried really hard to ad agency, production company. I was like, I don't want paid. I just wanna like, have the experience of working in the real industry. And people really don't really care about that because the visa problem. We're in a really embarrassed status that student visa can't work. And OPT, whatever, H-1B uni sponsored. They don't want to take a risk to like hiring you, only stay here for like a year and you had to go. Because they have like way more options. American students are not even like, worse than you. Like you're not better than any other students. Like we're just like in the same like sort of like level, especially talking about like film industry, like political science industry, advertising industry. You need culture-based experience to be here. And the only thing we can do is, if the ad agency is international, you want to have a program in China. And I tried. And I was like, I can't like be that international department for you guys. And they were like, we have department in China. Like they would prefer to send me back home instead of like working as a translator, like those things. They don't really need that because we do have like Skype, like those kind of things. It's just really hard for me to like get a job, especially when we answer the question, are you sponsored or whatever? So they just like as a company, they just don't really want to risk like the chance that to like for you not staying here for long, because companies have a really high competition all the time. Ad agency, TV production, they really cherish their human resource. They don't want you to bring out their like core whatever policy, like statement from this company and move to another company to help others to succeed.
I know all of you want to chime on that, but I think it is time. Oh, okay.
Sorry. I'm going to keep it very short. First of all, preach, girl, because it is impossible to find an internship here or even a job. Personally, I have to say I am not planning on staying in the United States simply because, I want to settle down one day. I'm a long-term thinker, and I mean, why would I want to be in a country that doesn't have free healthcare or like supported healthcare, kindergarten, education? I look at my life and I think of myself, I'm 21, I've been here for 6 years, that's a third of my life pretty much. It's not my culture. At the end of the day, I grow frustrated with certain parts of the American society, especially studying political science doesn't help. Political science really doesn't help because that just makes you frustrated with life. But I don't know, I think really the visa struggles and the internship struggles, even just to get an internship, it's impossible. It's honestly, you can apply to 25, 30 places. No one will even sometimes bother to reply because they know the process is too complicated. So I agree wholeheartedly. So,
All right. Thank you so much.
First of all, thank you, students, for being so candid with us and leading us into this conversation. I think as faculty and staff, it's really important for us to be able to empathize and see what it's like to be in these students' shoes. And I think it's such a brave thing to come to a place and not feel like you have to assimilate so much to the point that you lose your culture. It's very, very important. I'm a Nigerian-born Houstonian, and so a lot of times I walk into spaces and people don't realize that I'm foreign-born myself. And so kind of full circle, Sue was my professor when I came here to grad school. And so having that kind of conversation where you have to think about how do you fit into a space where people typically don't look like you or share your background, you have to really learn how to negotiate that. And I'm really appreciative of the people in these spaces who are their authentic selves and bring that to work every day. It really empowers you as a student to do the same. So can we give a round of applause to our students? And a round of applause to Sue for her moderation. And then lastly, I wanted to wrap up just to say thank you to Vince Cobb for his leadership on this. He really had this idea to have this conversation. This is part, 2, 3, 4, of a series that he started having conversations with students from all kinds of different backgrounds. These kind of conversations are critical. So thank you to him for his leadership. Thank you to staff council for the support, every single one who was able to rally these students. And thank you for you all being in the audience to have these critical conversations going on in Newhouse. This is what makes us a school of storytellers, really valuing the stories of students from all over the world. So thank you, and I hope that you enjoy the snacks and the conversations that go after.